Welcome to a very special live episode of Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, December 18th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Tennessee game is in 3 days. The game against Michigan in 346 days. Spent the last hour or so talking to mostly Ohio State defensive players and defensive coordinator Jim Knowles. A lot of that conversation was around tempo. Appropriately, this show is also going to be a tempo show because we're getting kicked out of here in about 15 to 20 minutes. So we'll hustle through all of this. Joined by Tony Gerdeman of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Tony, I think the first thing, before we move on to all the Tennessee stuff we want to talk about, I did want to talk very briefly about Jim Knowles' reaction to the Michigan game, because he used the exact same 3-word quote that we've heard previously from an Ohio State defensive coordinator after a Michigan game, but it had a very different message. Those 3 words, Tony, did we win?
Right, because the question posed was, Jim, any frustration when the Ohio State defense plays well enough to win against Michigan and the offense doesn't get it done? And Knowles stopped him short. Did we win? Then if you don't win, you didn't play well enough. And if you gave up points, you didn't play well enough. And it was very, very, was that the 2013 Michigan?
2013 Michigan game. Luke Fickell came out. Ohio State won 42-41, I think. And, there were some questions about, hey, you gave up 41 points to a not particularly good Michigan team. And he said, did we win? And the answer at that point was yes. The answer the following week against Michigan State was no, in fact, because your safety play is rather poor, as it turns out. So now, in this case, Jim Knowles, kind of the opposite side of the coin, they played great. They gave up 10 points of Michigan's came on drives of 3 and 2 yards. So not really on the defense, but Jim Knowles, did the very diplomatic approach. Because as he said, earlier in the year, they had a game at Oregon where everyone was pointing fingers to the defense, and the offense very easily could have said, well, we did our part. Opposite situation with the Michigan game. All right, that's probably enough Michigan talk for the Ohio State fan base. Let's talk a little bit about tempo. Tennessee obviously loves to use tempo in their games, in their offense, keep the opposing defense off balance. Fortunately, Jim Knowles, you've heard of the fastest draw in the West. He's hit their goal to be the fastest play-calling defense in the country.
Yeah, and he said that started with David Cutcliffe at Duke 12, 14 years ago. It kind of reminded me of when Jim Tressel in the 2010 Rose Bowl was asked, hey, how are you going to deal with this up-tempo Chip Kelly Oregon offense? And Jim Tressel said, well, we've got an up-tempo defense. And when David Cutcliffe put Jim Knowles on the scene in the 2012 or whatever it was, 10 Duke defense, he's like, we want to be calling these plays as fast as possible, because that was the style at the time, Tom, was getting the offenses, no onions on the belt.
No onions on the belt. Just call your plays fast.
Call the plays fast. And then that has continued to carry over. And he said they still have the fastest play calling defense in the nation.
Tennessee may have one of the faster running backs in the nation. Dylan Sampson set a bunch of Tennessee records and led the SEC in a bunch of categories this year. I think he had 13 categories where he ranked first in the SEC. And he's someone who presents a unique challenge to this Ohio State defense, because he's, Sonny Styles, I think it was, talked about, you got the speed and you've got the push and the strength, but the patience that he has really sets him apart.
And everybody that was asked about Dylan Sampson mentioned patience. And it's just a funny thing. You've got this up-tempo thing that you're running, and then you're talking about the running back who is at the head of it is he's just a really patient guy, waits for the crease, finds it, and then can go. And he, as we've watched these 4 games over the course of the season, he's okay getting 4 yards and then, falling forward for a 5th. He's not I'm going to spin out and try to make something happen. He's I'm going to get what I can get. And if there's something else there, I'm going to do it. But he's very patient. If there's nothing there, he'll just go and, try to get whatever he can, 2 yards or whatever, and keep them ahead of things. And he's got a really good knack of finding the right place to be in the right place to go. And we've seen it all the time. It's it doesn't always look special, but it's just productive. And to me, that's the epitome of patience almost.
It's so interesting that Tennessee is such a tempo offense. And then you're talking about patience. It's it's sort of an offshoot of the old hurry up and wait, which normally is a negative thing because you're being told to be somewhere and then you stand around a bunch. This is hurry up, which is brackets complimentary, and also wait, brackets also complimentary. So kind of an interesting combination there. You talked about not trying to do too much with Dylan Sampson. Nico Iamaleava, the quarterback, sometimes does try to do too much. And it's okay because sometimes it works, because he has very, very big, very, very quick, long strider in the open field, also an incredibly strong arm. he presents a bunch of different challenges to the Buckeyes.
Well, and as Jim Knowles said, like he can make all of those throws. They have those wide splits for the receivers that we've talked about for weeks now, where they're out past the numbers, they're to the numbers. So you have to have a quarterback that can throw from the hash to the numbers like that, and they've got one. But one of the last things Jim Knowles said about him is like he's faster than people think, and if you don't prepare for that, if you don't expect that, then he's going to have the angle and he's going to get around you. So he is tough to bring down. He keeps plays alive. He is looking downfield almost constantly, and the one of the constants that we've seen with him is you can hit him, and he will take some shots, and he does not slide. So there'll be opportunities cleanly to maybe make him rethink some things.
Yeah, he's someone who is a really exciting player and a really nerve-wracking player for both teams, because he gets out of the pocket and it's, he might run for 30 yards. We saw him run for 40 or 50 yards at one point. He also might run around and have a receiver downfield and go, I can probably fit it in there. And the answer is sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. We have seen him make some very poor decisions. He's just not someone who throws the ball away a lot, which means good news. It's going to be exciting. Which team is it going to be good news for? Well, we'll wait when the football lands and or a defender contacts him. It is a show. I am really excited to see him in person. I asked Sonny Styles about him and just the challenge of defending him. Nico Iamaleava just showing off now. It's fine. I don't know why you keep bringing it up. He when he's scrambling out there, you've got to be so disciplined in your rush lanes, because I feel like the Ohio State pass rush is going to be able to get pressure. But if Iamaleava is able to get out of there, then you're in the open field. And we'll talk about the wide splits in a little more and some of the challenges those present. But if he's able to get out of there a little bit and get into the open field, whether it's scrambling to buy time to throw the ball downfield, which he has a very strong arm, but also, just being able to run. I asked Sonny about this, and this is an AI generated transcript, so it's probably mostly accurate. This is not a verbatim quote, but it's going to be very close.
Do it in a robot voice.
Yeah, I mean, it takes all 11. It starts with the rush lanes, like you said, everyone being in the rush lanes where they're supposed to be. And then if he does happen to get out because he's a great athlete and obviously going to have a chance to make some great plays, you got to be able to hang in there. Whoever you're on, stay on them. Be disciplined in your coverage, because, again, he's buying time. You may have to cover for 4 or 5 seconds, which is not a normal thing. But I mean, it sucks for a defense when you feel like you got everyone covered and he just gets out of the pocket, runs for 20 yards. That's like, dang, it sucks for a defense. That's difficult to work with. So we're obviously going to have a plan for that and be able to counteract that. I mean, he is a unique talent and he presents some unique challenges.
There's a lot of him to hit. He's 6'6". He's about 215 pounds. I think when they do blitz him, wrap him up and at least slow him down a little bit and change some things up. But if you rush and you miss him and he's out of the pocket and you're down a defender, it's going to create some issues. And then you're going to have defenders that are in conflict. Like, do I come off of my guy and come help out? Or because if you do that, then boom, you've left your guy open. So if you have an opportunity, when they do blitz him and they have an opportunity, they need to bring him down.
And if you do get pressure on him, we have seen him make bad choices, and we have seen him not have great ball security when he's kind of trying to, you got someone grabbing on and he's trying to try to rush and break away. Sometimes that ball gets out there a little bit. You want it high and tight, and it is not always high and tight with him. So again, opportunities for big plays for the offense, opportunities for big plays for the defense, that whether there are more of one than the other in a game that could be as low scoring and close as this, that could be the difference. So one other thing that I did want to ask you about was, we talked a bunch about Tennessee's wide splits. Not as much. I thought this was going to be like the Jack level of the conversation in terms of, it becomes like the story of the month. And we've kind of talked about it a few times, but not as much as I thought. Tennessee's splits their wide receivers out way wider than normal. Like, they're outside the numbers, which is very unusual on both sides of the field, even to the field and to the boundary. We got a chance to talk to Lathan Ransom. We got a chance to talk to Caleb Downs, both of Ohio State's starting safeties. What does that do to them in, and their roles, and in terms of, it puts a little bit of additional stress on them and sort of forces you to make a decision a little earlier, maybe.
Yeah, and as Caleb said, it turns it into a one-on-one. Basically, it's a one-on-one game in the secondary where you are spread out, and if you do miss your tackle, as we've seen, that guy can be gone. Dante Thornton, 86 yards on a pretty simple RPO, that if you don't make your play, then there's nobody else around because everybody is all spread out. And so they'll throw some quick stuff and you have to make those plays. Lathan Ransom has to make those plays. The corners have to tackle. We've seen over in years past, like the season opener in 2022 where you don't make a tackle and that guy goes. And that's going to be key in this one. They're going to be out all by their lonesome, a lot of these safeties. And so you have to bring somebody down and you've got to be disciplined and you've got to be aware and you've got to be on your toes. As I think as Caleb and Lathan Ransom both said, you've got to get your cleats in the dirt and be ready to go.
Get your cleats in the chopped up tires and possibly frozen artificial turf. It is going to be definitely a challenge. We did get a chance also today to sort of wrap up the Monday interviews with Emeka Egbuka. Monday was offense, but Emeka wasn't available, so we got a chance to talk to him today. Nothing earth-shattering from him, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for redemption. Like this is a chance for, he talked about Will Howard and having complete faith in Will Howard. This is a chance for Will Howard to go out on a better note at home than he did. It's also a chance for the Ohio State team, the senior class that came back to achieve all of these goals, to go out with their last game at Ohio Stadium on a higher note than they would have otherwise. Yeah,
for sure. You can be a senior day do-over type of thing, and knowing that this is your last opportunity to play in the shoe. And the way that they left the field on senior day has to be crushing. So this is an opportunity to not erase that, but just go out on a better note at home in a place where you've been for 4 years, some 5 years. You've had a ton of great memories with your brothers and all of that. And you don't want to be thinking your last 2 times here were losses. You certainly want to go out with a win for many, many reasons. Among them, the fact that, God, it's the last game you're ever going to play here. It's going to be your last memory here. The crowd, you keep hearing the imploring of help the defense. This is an opportunity for the crowd to be part of the 1/12 of the defense, basically. And if the crowd can do their 1/12, it's going to make everybody else's job easier. Dealing with all of the tempo and everything is, if Tennessee has to go silent count, that's an advantage for the defense immediately.
Yep, and we've talked about that a bunch on the Buckeye Weekly shows that we've done. If you have not watched those, go back and subscribe to the Buckeye Weekly podcast and go ahead and download the last 5 or so shows. We spent a lot of time talking about Tennessee, the matchup between the Buckeyes and the Volunteers on that feed, as well as on the Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning feed, as well as on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. I know we've picked up a bunch of Tennessee followers the last week or two who've, I think, mostly enjoyed our analysis of Tennessee's, some of Tennessee's bigger games.
Well, it takes a while for the mail, the physical mail to reach us. So far, so good.
But if you are enjoying this and enjoying some of the other coverage we've done, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell so we get notified, because we're going to be doing a bunch of live shows this week. Going to have a bunch of breakdowns. We try and have another Ross Fulton show with a little bit of an X's and O's look at Tennessee. Going to have some I know Tennessee did their offensive and defensive coordinator press conferences today, so I'll try and have a little bit of a breakdown of what we heard from them. Did a breakdown on the Buckeye Huddle board that I'll try and turn into a video at some point of the 15 most interesting stats and facts about Tennessee football that we learned from the information that the school put out. Did you know, Tony, this will not only be the first time Tennessee plays at Ohio State, it'll be the first time they play in the state of Ohio, which seems impossible because it's like 4 hours from Tennessee to Cincinnati. Like, it feels like at some point accidentally in the 1920s you would have done that, but they have not.
They're even afraid of like Ohio Wesleyan capital.
So we'll have it will be a historic day on Saturday as the Buckeyes and Volunteers kick it off at 8:00. We will be there probably much earlier than that on Saturday. Have all of our usual live pre and post game coverage for you at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.